Episode 16, Martin Harris Gets Taken Thrice. Welcome back to Hidden and Distorted History of the Church, where we uncover the lesser-known truths about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons. My goal is to reveal the authentic historical facts behind the Mormon Church. Recap. In our last episode, we uncovered the move of Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery to the Whitmer farm in Fayette, New York, and the mounting pressure on Martin Harris to continue funding the Book of Mormon project. In this episode, we'll scrutinize the dubious claims of the Golden Plate's witnesses, Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Martin Harris, examining the credibility and implications of their testimonies. Part 1, The Three Witnesses. The Church claims, shortly after his arrival in Fayette, Joseph received a revelation in June 1829 that Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, and Martin Harris would obtain a view of the plates, the breastplate, the sword of Laban, and the Urim and Thummim. The four retired to a forest near the Whitmer home, where Moroni appeared to them and showed them the aforementioned items. Then we hear, it was a clear, open, beautiful day, far from any inhabitants, in a remote field, at the time we saw the record, of which it has been spoken, brought and laid before us by an angel, arrayed in glorious light, who descended, I suppose, out of the midst of heaven. Now if this is human juggling, judge ye. There's a glaring issue here. The official story suggests that all four men were together for this divine revelation, but historical accounts reveal otherwise. In reality, Martin Harris, feeling unworthy, left the group before the vision occurred. The remaining three claim to have witnessed the angelic appearance alone. It's deeply ironic that the three who were left behind, the ones who claim to have seen the angel and the plates, are also the very individuals who might have orchestrated the deception surrounding the Book of Mormon. Consider the history of the Church, Vol 153, in that not many days after the above commandment was given, we four, viz. Martin Harris, David Whitmer, Oliver Cowdery, and myself, agreed to retire into the woods and try to obtain by fervent and humble prayer the fulfillment of the promises given in the above revelation, that they should have a view of the plates. We accordingly made choice of a piece of woods convenient to Mr. Whitmer's house, to which we retired, and having knelt down, we began to pray in much faith to Almighty God to bestow upon us a realization of these promises. According to previous arrangement, I commenced prayer to our Heavenly Father, and was followed by each of the others in succession. We did not at the first trial, however, obtain any answer or manifestation of divine favor in our behalf. We again observed the same order of prayer, each calling on and praying fervently to God in rotation, but with the same result as before. Upon this, our second failure, Martin Harris proposed that he should withdraw himself from us, believing, as he expressed himself, that his presence was the cause of our not obtaining what we wished for. Marty accordingly withdrew from us, and we knelt down again, and had not been many minutes engaged in prayer, when presently we beheld a light above us in the air, of exceeding brightness, and behold, an angel stood before us. In his hands he held the plates which we had been praying for, these to have a view of. He turned over the leaves one by one, so that we could see them, and discern the engravings thereon distinctly. He then addressed himself to David Whitmer, and said, David, blessed is the Lord, and he that keeps his commandments. When, immediately afterwards, we heard a voice from out of the bright light above us, saying, These plates have been revealed by the power of God, and they have been translated by the power of God. The translation of them which you have seen is correct, and I command you to bear record of what you now see and hear. Let's pause here. Joseph's own account reveals a critical detail. Martin Harris, unable to enter a trance-like state, left the group. Consequently, Martin missed the alleged angelic visit. This detail underscores that Joseph Smith's hold on Martin was weakening, even as he desperately needed Martin's financial support for the Book of Mormon's publication. What steps did Joseph take next? I left David and Oliver and went in search of Martin Harris, whom I found a considerable distance away, deeply engrossed in prayer. He confessed that he had not yet received the vision, and begged me to join him, so that he too might witness the divine manifestations we had just experienced. We prayed together, and eventually the vision was revealed again, at least to me. Martin, caught up in a state of ecstatic joy, shouted, "'Tis enough, "'Tis enough, mine eyes have beheld, and broke into jubilant praise, crying, Hosanna, and exalting God with fervent celebration." Martin Harris was already highly susceptible to religious experiences. He had previously claimed to have walked and talked with Jesus in the form of a deer, and believed a flickering candle was a sign of evil. Joseph Smith capitalized on this vulnerability, manipulating Martin to conform to his narrative. With Martin fully convinced and eager to finance the printing of the Book of Mormon, Joseph had achieved his goal. Historian and Community of Christ, formerly known as the RLDS, Minister John Hamer notes, Joseph Smith Jr. and his contemporaries spoke of lifting the veil from their eyes to see into the spiritual realm. Harris ambiguously confirmed that the vision was perceived with spiritual eyes. Hamer further observes, Martin Harris, who financed the publication of the Book of Mormon, believed fervently that the book was a true history, but ultimately hoped in vain to recoup his investment. For context, the Community of Christ, the second largest Mormon denomination, traces its authority through Joseph Smith's son, Joseph Smith III, rejecting Brigham Young as the rightful successor. They retain significant early church documents within the John Whitmer Historical Society building. Hamer's account differs from the official LDS narrative, where Smith and Harris claim that Martin left the group voluntarily. Hamer explains, "For the three witnesses, both Oliver Cowdery and David Whitmer, were able to share in the guided experience, but Martin Harris could not envision the angel with the plates. Smith separated him, finishing the vision with the first two before working with Harris alone. Finally, Harris felt the confirmation, testifying, 'It is enough.' The claim that the witnesses saw the plates was, in reality, a spiritual experience rather than a physical one, a belief not uncommon in Smith's time. Early member and church elder Stephen Burnett stated in 1838, "When I came to hear Martin Harris state in public that he never saw the plates with his natural eyes, only in vision or imagination, neither Oliver nor David, the last pedestal gave way. In my view, our foundations, he hefted the plates repeatedly in a box with only a tablecloth or handkerchief over them. But he never saw them, only as he saw a city through a mountain." In response, the LDS Church attempted to discredit Burnett, labeling him an apostate and dismissing his account as unreliable. They wrote in their Gospel Library Manual, by 1838 he had apostatized from the church and thought it was a whole scene of lying and deception. The church's attack on Burnett's character extended to three others who heard Harris's statement: Apostles Luke S. Johnson, Lyman E. Johnson, and John F. Boynton, all of whom also left the church. This is a critical moment, as it challenges the narrative that Smith, Cowdery, Whitmer, and Harris physically saw the plates. Instead, we find a story of spiritual, not physical, vision. John H. Gilbert, the typesetter for the Book of Mormon, questioned Harris directly. "Martin, did you see those plates with your naked eyes?" Gilbert recalls Harris looked down for an instant, raised his eyes up, and said, "No, I saw them with a spiritual eye." Harris further clarified, "But did you see them, plates, with your natural, your bodily eyes, just as you see this pencil case in my hand? Now say no or yes to this." Harris answered, "I did not see them as I do that pencil case, yet I saw them with the eye of faith. I saw them just as distinctly as I see anything around me, though at the time they were covered over with a cloth." I focus on Harris here because his vision was crucial for Joseph. Without it, there would have been no money to print the Book of Mormon. Before moving on, let's examine two final quotes that solidifies the lack of any physical viewing by the three witnesses. On August 11th, 1838, Warren Parrish wrote to E. Holmes, stating, "Martin Harris, one of the subscribing witnesses, has come out at last and says he never saw the plates from which the book purports to have been translated, except in vision. He further says that any man who claims to have seen them otherwise is a liar. Joseph not accept." In an 1880 interview, David Whitmer was asked to describe the angel he claimed to have seen. He responded that it had no appearance or shape. When interviewer John Murphy pressed him on how he could testify about the plates, Whitmer gave us a revealing key in just 5 words. "Have you never had impressions?" In other words, had he never experienced visions before? It's clear no physical event occurred, neither with the 3 witnesses nor the 8 witnesses. Part 2, The 8 Witnesses. The LDS Church teaches that all 8 witnesses experienced their alleged viewing of the plates together, but that's not how it happened. Joseph Smith took the Whitmer brothers, Christian, Jacob, John, and Peter Jr., into the woods for their witnessing of the Book of Mormon. Later, he took his brothers Samuel and Hiram, along with their father Joseph Sr. and Hiram Page, for a separate witnessing. Why doesn't the church tell the full story? Not only were the 8 witnesses not together, but it's believed Joseph Smith himself drafted the statement now found in the Book of Mormon and had each witness sign it. There is even contradictory evidence suggesting the witnesses were hesitant to sign and were pressured into doing so by Joseph. Only 3 of the 8 witnesses ever spoke about the experience afterward. Joseph did the same for the 3 witnesses, drafting the statement and getting their signatures. Some non-LDS scholars believe that Joseph may have even signed the witnesses' names himself. This isn't just an anti-Mormon claim, it's supported by evidence in the Joseph Smith papers. The historical introduction notes, J.S. may have been involved in writing this statement, but it is likely that Cowdery or one of the other witnesses was the author. The document appears as an appendix to this volume rather than as a featured text because even though its connection to J.S. is well established, its authorship is uncertain. The church attempts to shift the authorship away from Joseph, but the connection to him is clear. If this doesn't raise serious doubts, I don't know what will. Before moving further into the timeline, consider that the church isn't even consistent about when this supposed event took place. The Joseph Smith papers footnotes reveal, Lucy Mack Smith later related that after the translation was finished, J.S. dispatched a messenger to Mr. Smith, Joseph Sr., request that Mr. Smith and myself should come immediately. She then went on to explain that she was at the Whitmer house when the witnesses saw the plates, implying that J.S. had already finished the translation. However, J.S.'s history and a recollection by David Whitmer stated that the translation was completed after the 3 witnesses viewed the plates. Whitmer said that it was about 11 a.m. on a Sunday when the witnesses viewed the plates, possibly indicating the date was 28 June, the last Sunday of June 1829. Lucy claims the book was completed when it wasn't. Was she mistaken, or did Joseph tell her it was done, expecting to finish it before they arrived but couldn't? It's unclear, but what is clear is the con unfolding here. Martin Harris was now fully under Joseph's influence, ready to follow him anywhere and provide the money needed to print the Book of Mormon. But how? Conclusion. In this episode, we've uncovered the manipulations surrounding the testimonies of the 3 and 8 witnesses to the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith carefully orchestrated their experiences, creating spiritual visions rather than physical events, and pressured them into signing statements of authenticity. The inconsistencies in the church's narrative, alongside evidence from both believers and critics, cast serious doubt on the reliability of these witness accounts. As we continue to explore these historical events, the extent of Joseph Smith's influence over his followers, particularly Martin Harris, becomes increasingly clear. Please watch for future videos, and thank you so kindly for watching. This is the Ex-Mormon Informant signing off for the day.